late last week, the opposition demanded an emergency meeting of the Justice Committee to have former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould appear before that committee again. This after testimony last week by the Prime Minister's former Principal Secretary contradicted much of what Wilson-Raybould had said. The Justice Committee has been where the most stunning moments of this story have unfolded so far. Joining me now to answer questions about this, we have Pierre for the Conservatives here in Ottawa, and out in Burnaby we have Peter Julian from the NDP. I want to know, you heard from Jody Wilson-Raybould, and people are saying, look, she came and said her piece. Why does the Justice Committee and why do opposition MPs want to see Jody Wilson-Raybould back before that committee again?
Two reasons. Reason number one, PCO clerk Michael Wernick was invited back for a second time to contradict previous statements by the former Attorney General. That is a courtesy that Jody Wilson-Raybould has not been extended. And secondly, Trudeau limited what she could say. He banned her from speaking out about anything that happened after she was moved out of the role of Attorney General. And we know that there were material events that occurred leading up to her resignation, about which she has so far been banned from speaking. So what our message as Conservatives is lift the full gag order and let her complete her full testimony so Canadians know what happened.
Peter, when Gerald Butts appeared and when the clerk of the Privy Council appeared, they were both under the same ban. Why do you want Jody Wilson-Raybould to come back from the NDP perspective? What is it that you'd like to ask her?
Well, I was in the room when she gave her very compelling testimony. It's very rare that you see somebody before a committee who just, in a very honest, forthright way, answers all of the questions that she could answer. But she was very careful about what she could and what she couldn't answer. And I would have to agree. I think most parliamentarians and most Canadians want to see Ms. Wilson-Raybould give her full testimony and be able to tell us exactly what happened without the gag order that Mr. Trudeau has imposed. And the reality is she has been by far the most credible on this issue and how carefully she has rolled out in the evidence that she has presented. It is very important, I think, for Canadians to get to the bottom of this. We need to have her back in front of the Justice Committee. And as Jagmeet Singh has said a number of times, we need to have a public inquiry into the extent of this scandal.
Pierre, when Gerald Butts testified, some of what he read were text messages. It didn't sound like Jody Wilson-Raybould was very upset in those. It sounded pretty friendly. Was there anything in his testimony that raised doubts for you about whether or not the pressure was inappropriate or if she was simply being asked to reconsider?
There was nothing in his testimony that caused me to think that. No. In fact, Jody Wilson-Raybould specifically says that on September 17th, she told the Prime Minister, she said, I looked the Prime Minister in the eye and asked him if he was interfering with my role as Attorney General. And he was forced to back off. Now, he and Butts go out and say, she never once raised any concerns. Well, I looked him straight in the eye and said, are you interfering with my job? Sounds like a concern to me. Neither Butts nor Trudeau have specifically denied that she said that. They just make a sweeping, broad statement that she never raised any concerns. It sounds to me like Trudeau is stating a falsehood when he claims she never raised any concerns. Do you think
the Prime Minister is lying?
It seems that way. And he refuses to say whether or not the September 17th exchange happened the way she described. She's been asked in a press conference yesterday about that, and he just simply dodged the question. But he continually states falsehoods in this regard that we know are not true. Yesterday, another falsehood. He claimed that SNC could leave Canada altogether if prosecuted. Well, we know that's impossible because
how do you know that's impossible?
Because the company has a $1.5 billion loan agreement with the Caisse de Dépôt requiring its headquarters stay in Montreal, where, by the way, it just signed a 20-year lease and is in the process of renovating its bureau for its 2,000 employees there. We also know that it has roughly $52 billion worth of construction contracts that have to be done in Canada. So it is completely impossible that the company would up and leave. And what I want to know is, did the Prime Minister or anyone else lie to Jody Wilson-Raybould in an attempt to force her to sign a deferred prosecution agreement on the fly based on false information. Because
okay,
if they told her, if they told her, look, you have to sign immediately or the company will move its headquarters, and we know that's impossible, then that would be a falsehood.
But we don't know that they said that, though. So I want to give Peter a chance to get in here. Peter, when you look at this, you know, one of the elements we heard in the testimony is that there can be a deferred prosecution agreement right up basically until this ends in a trial. So why not expect the Attorney General to keep an open mind until you get to that point? Isn't it a little bit premature to make a decision within a few months?
Well, I think the issue here is that we have a former Attorney General who is very clear that she received a variety of veiled threats and subsequently lost her job as Minister of Justice and Attorney General. That is extraordinarily bad and inappropriate behavior by the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's office. Now, the jobs argument is simply a smokescreen to try to hide this inappropriate behavior because, as every Canadian is now finding out, there is a binding agreement with the Quebec Pension Plan that obliges SNC-Lavalin to stay in Canada for another half-decade. So that jobs argument is simply ridiculous. It's a smokescreen. What we have is systematic pressure that was put on the Attorney General in a very inappropriate way. And the reality is the decision was made. The former Attorney General was very clear in communicating that. And we had bad, inappropriate behavior from a wide variety of actors in the Prime Minister's office and the Prime Minister himself. This is something that needs to be subject to the scrutiny that comes with a public inquiry. And that's why a number of people, including Jagmeet Singh, have called for that.
Pierre, Prime Minister Harper claimed that he did not know anything about his former chief of staff cutting a $90,000 check to Mike Duffy. It's not unusual that prime ministers don't always know exactly what their political staff are doing. You seem to believe he did. You seem to believe you're very committed to this. How far are the Conservatives willing to go to force this issue? Are you willing to try to shut down Parliament? Are you willing to protest with votes? What are you going to do to try to stand up to this?
We will use every parliamentary tool in the toolkit to require the Prime Minister answer questions about the falsehoods that he appears to have stated. The Prime Minister once again made the phony jobs claim yesterday. We know that that claim is false. So we want to know, given that it wasn't about jobs, given that he has provided no evidence that jobs would be lost, who was he really trying to protect by shelving this prosecution?
We have to wrap it up there, but we'll certainly be coming back to it. And I appreciate both of you taking the time to be on the show today. Thank you.
Good to be with you.
Thank you.